This is a read aloud for Snow White Meets the Huntsman, an excerpt. So again, it's another part of a story, the whole story from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, a famous book, movie. Basically everyone's seen it, by the Brothers Grimm. Now, before we dive into the pool for the read aloud, remember, keep in mind TAPS, so T-A-P-S. T stands for theme. Why? Because it's a fairy tale. So we're looking at different themes like this, something I just pulled up online. And now these are actually titles, but if you look at different, according to this, themes, there are friendship, honesty, responsibility, perseverance, compassion, and cooperation. But what's important is when you write out a theme for a story or a fairy tale, you take these words and you put it in a sentence. So say like if I took the word compassion, which means characters want to make others feel better and end their suffering, you'd want to say the author believes that compassion with the main character. And then you talk about the main character, secondary characters, and more or less what was learned in the story. So take these topics and always put them into a sentence. But notice how all of them focus on the word characters, 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 characters. So in every story, there are main characters, and what do they learn in the story? So you have the witch, and you have Snow White, the huntsman, and what happens. Keep in mind who's the audience, who's this fairy tale written for. This is definitely to entertain. That's the purpose. And then look at the structure of the sentences. Right away, it says that this is an excerpt, so it's part of a story of a whole story. And for this one, you can see it's just 4 short pages or 21 paragraphs. And there was a recent television series, Once Upon a Time, features Snow White as a character who lives between the world of fairy tales and real life. Let's go for the read aloud. Paragraph 1. Once upon a time in midwinter, when the snowflakes were falling like feathers from heaven, a queen sat sewing at her window. The window had a frame of black ebony wood. As she sewed, she looked up at the snow and pricked her finger with her needle. 3 drops of blood fell into the snow. The red and the white looked so beautiful that she thought to herself, quote, "If only I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood in this frame." Soon afterward, the queen had a little daughter who was as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony wood. Therefore, they called her Little Snow White. Sadly, as soon as the child was born, the queen died. There's the castle. Forest. Snow. Moving on. Other characters. The Wicked Queen from a 2013 Broadway adaptation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Go to Disneyland, right? Paragraph 3. A year later, the king took himself another wife. She was a beautiful woman, but she was proud and arrogant. She could not stand it if anyone might surpass her in beauty. This queen had a magic mirror. There it is. Every morning she stood before it, looked at herself, and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" To this mirror answered, "You, my queen, are fairest of all." Then she was satisfied, for she knew that the mirror spoke the truth. Snow White grew up and became even more beautiful. When she was 7 years old, she was as beautiful as the light of day, even more beautiful than the queen herself. That's it for paragraph 9, page 7. Moving on. Page 8. Remember, point to every single word as you read, please. Paragraph 10. One day when the queen asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" It answered, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." Uh-oh. 16. The queen took fright and turned yellow. and green with envy. From that hour on, whenever she looked at Snow White, her heart turned over inside her body. So great was her hatred for the girl that envy and pride grew ever greater, like a weed in her heart, until she had no peace day and night. 17. Then she summoned a huntsman and said to him, "Take Snow White out into the woods. I never want to see her again. Kill her, and as proof that she is dead, bring her lungs and her liver back to me." The huntsman obeyed and took Snow White into the woods. He took out his hunting knife and was about to stab it into her innocent heart when the girl began to cry, saying, "Oh, dear huntsman, let me live. I will run in the wild woods and never come back." Because she was so beautiful, the huntsman took pity on her and said, "Run away, you poor child." He thought, the wild animals will soon devour you anyway. But still, it was as if a stone had fallen from his heart, for he would not have to kill her. Just then, a young boar came running by. The huntsman killed it, cut out its lungs and liver, and took them back to the queen as proof of Snow White's death. The cook had to boil them with salt, and the wicked woman ate them, supposing that she had eaten Snow White's lungs and liver. That's it for that part of the story. Super short. All right, so go back to your themes. Was this fairy tale really about friendship? Probably not. Honesty, responsibility, perseverance, compassion. Did the huntsman show compassion for Snow White? Maybe, maybe not. I'll let you figure it out. Or cooperation. Okay, remember these are only 6 themes, and there are so many more. So just go online or make up your own theme. In other words, just keep in mind the theme is, what was the message learned, or what was really important about Snow White meets the Huntsman? What did the author want you to learn? The message or general insight, the theme. Later.